One. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Meet the Candidates, our general election edition. I'm Clint Cummins, CEO of Memphis Medical Society. I'm joined today by Dr. George Woodbury, our legislative chairman and a dermatologist out of the Cordova, Tennessee area. Hey, Dr. Woodbury.
Hello.
Our guest today is Ms. Patti Possel, Republican candidate for District 96. Patti, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to get right to the questions and get you out of here as soon as we can, okay? Over the summer, Governor Lee issued Executive Order 15. One of the provisions in that order was the allowance for nurse practitioners to practice with autonomy. What's your position on the ability of nurse practitioners and physician assistants to practice independently?
So I did read all the literature I possibly could get my hands on this subject. Plus, I've been listening to it for the past year and a half from the nurses, from the doctors. And as an educator, I understand that there's a hierarchy when you go for more education. Absolutely. You guys should be a part of this decision making. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But during a pandemic, when you're talking about shutting everybody down and limiting access everywhere, then you go off into those rural places that there are very few physicians to begin with. Then you throw in the fact that there's just not enough medical resources in those areas. So I understand why the governor made this decision during this point in time, that we just needed every available medical personnel to be able to reach as many people as possible. So even though ideally, I think it would be awesome to have a team with every person that walks in the office where the physician is the lead, I also have to support the decision of the government in partnership with the physicians that, hey, when we're in an emergency crisis, we may, it's great to have that supervision, but sometimes we got to roll with what we have, and giving them the autonomy to make those decisions during this time, I think is what we needed to do in order to serve the people most effectively. And I'm sorry, my phone is ringing, but it's going to go to the answering machine.
That's all right. It's campaign season, right?
That's right. That's right. And I'm sure they're calling about, something I don't need or want, but, so that's where I stand. I understand it. And in these kind of situations, we have to give the nurses that autonomy in order to serve the people in the best way that we can.
Okay. We're going to keep rolling with the questions. Thank you for that answer. So a lot of difficult decisions have been made throughout the pandemic that really force business owners, parents, policymakers, really everybody to balance personal physical health and and community health with what I would call economic health, and that just desire to get back to business. That's all of our legislators have been faced with those kinds of decisions. Can you talk about how you prioritize or would prioritize those dynamics in a situation?
So in this situation, again, I think we need to lean heavily on our medical community to give us the guidelines for what we need to do. But then there also needs to be that balance between, you can't shut down the economy completely, because that messes with people's psyches, that messes with their ability to have the resources needed for a good balanced diet. So there has to be a balance between those two things. I don't think we should shut down the economy and force people to stay at home. But at the same time, we have to take those precautions and make sure that we're opening up in the most safe and effective way possible. But we definitely need the input from the medical society in order to know what we need to do to make sure those businesses and those schools can open in the most ideal and safe environments too.
Sure. Kind of along the same lines, a lot of people assume that as we come through this pandemic, we're going to be faced with some revenue decreases at the state level, and probably be in that situation where we have to do some cuts. Can you talk about how, when faced with situations to cut, how you prioritize that, and would you cut healthcare spending?
I absolutely will not cut healthcare spending, nor will I cut safety issues, nor will I cut education, because those are the most important things. Safety and health go hand in hand, right? So we need good policing and support of the policing and law enforcement, but at the same time, we need good support for good medical, uh, for medical safety too, right? And then of course, we always need good education. Those are our top priorities, and we should not make any cuts in any one of those three categories. Where we could make those cuts are in government positions that are already open, or somebody's retiring. We don't need to fill those things. And yeah, that might be somewhat of a burden for some of those people, but if they have to work more than an 8-hour day, that's an okay thing versus cutting police officers that work more than 8 hours. Doctors certainly work more than 8 hours routinely. And of course, educators, even though people think, oh, they've got a lot of time off and they only teach X number of hours a day, they're always going home and preparing. So they're all working more than 8 hours. In times like this is when everybody needs to step up and do the best they can. And that means putting a little more time in and burning the midnight oil.
All right, thanks, Patti. So those are our questions. We wanted to leave a few minutes here at the end for you to talk about anything you want to, some of the priorities that we didn't mention, or just any stumping you want to do today.
Okay, so for me, for those that don't know where 96 is, it's the vast majority of Cordova and a little bit of Germantown. So for me, a big priority and what I've been advocating for over the course of this last 8 years is because of my study on property rights. So when I woke up to that newspaper article in 2012 that said my home was annexed, I pulled out my Constitution, I pulled out the law, and I figured out that the law was imbalanced and it was unconstitutional. We all had the right to confirm our governance. So I then went back, and 4,600 files later, I can give you a history all the way back to 1960 in the city of Memphis and what their aggressive annexation policies have actually done, which has been a lose-lose situation for the residents of Raleigh, Fraser, Hickory Hill, and Whitehaven. Well, when they came out and started annexing Cordova, that same policy is in play here, and you're starting to see Cordova being going downhill or deteriorating the same way Raleigh, Fraser, Hickory Hill, and Whitehaven have deteriorated. So we're down 800 police officers in the city of Memphis, which the vast majority of Cordova is within the boundaries of the city of Memphis. And we also cannot get our garbage picked up. And I believe Dr. Woodburn knows that, because in order to get to his office, he's riding through those residential areas and he's seeing that trash on the street week after week after week. The people who live in Cordova deserve to have good services. And if the city of Memphis needs the resources because they don't have enough in their budget to come out and actually service Cordova, then you need somebody in Nashville that is going to bring those resources back so we can partner and actually start maintaining Cordova in these very important safety issues, because trash laying on the street is not rocket science to pick it up, but yet it is a big safety issue because it brings in rodents and pestilence, and then we get into the healthcare and everything else too. So Cordova needs to be maintained, and we have to have somebody there in Nashville with a little chutzpah to really advocate for the residents of Cordova, because Cordova is the center of Shelby County. And so we touch 6 of the 7 cities of Shelby County. And so to think that Cordova fails the way those other 4 areas fail, you're going to end up having more issues in all the outlying areas. So my platform is really about advocating for the people and safety issues and bringing good jobs back here, making sure we're supporting law enforcement and picking up the garbage. I'm Patti Possel. Please vote for me.
All right, Patti, that all sounds good. Thanks for your candor. Thanks for your time today. And Good luck to you on the campaign trail.
Well, thank you so much for including me, and I hope to see you all in person real soon.
All right, Patty, take care.
You too. All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.